Hello, and welcome to the talk about GPTnet. I like to call it that, and how we will survive it in the future. So, all jokes aside, we're going to talk about how those AI bots that are just now taking over the network, taking over everything, what it's going to do to us, and maybe even more. So, without further ado, this talk was supposed to be me and Amir Kirsh. Amir Kirsh is not here, but he's in our spirit. He's in my heart as well. I will just say who he is. He is an academic. He's a lecturer at the Academic College of Tel Aviv-Yafo. Right now, he is a visiting lecturer at the Stony Brook University as well. He is a developer advocate for Incredibuild, and he's a co-organizer for Core C++. If you don't know what Core C++ is, it's the C++ conference in Israel, in Tel Aviv. We have a conference really soon. As I mentioned, Amir works at Incredibuild. What Incredibuild does is basically, if you have long projects with a lot of lines of code, then maybe you need it to distribute it, to compile it faster. And so Incredibuild, that's exactly what they are doing. They are allowing you to compile your code in a distributed manner on your own servers or in the cloud. Now about me. I'm Alex Dathskovsky. I work at a company called Speed Data. We are developing the next thing in big data. We're developing a new CPU that will accelerate analytics. And it's going to be different than any other CPU that you have ever seen. So hopefully next year, I will have the actual chip to talk about. Except that I'm volunteering for Core C++, and I'm a co-organizer for Haifa C++ meetup group. Okay, so what we're going to discuss about during this talk. We are going to talk about the future of programming with AI bots, as I mentioned before. Whether it will affect C++ users, maybe not, maybe yes. And how can we prepare for the coming future? Because, like it or not, it's going to do something. This talk is going to have 7 chapters. I promise you it's going to have intro and conclusion. For the other chapters, you will have to wait patiently and see what they are. Let's start with chapter number 1, the intro. Let's understand what is a large language model. Basically, it's a model that is it's a neural network that consumes a lot of text, and then it knows to produce words. Basically, it uses statistics to produce new words from the words that you are giving it. And each word that it produces, it has confidence for this word. But let's ask Sam Altman. Sam Altman, who knows who Sam Altman is? He's the CEO for OpenAI. And he's saying, okay, that's correct. LLMs, they are doing this. They are looking at the words that they are giving, and they're trying to see the chance, what is the next word? But like he's saying, like animals and humans, we're programmed to reproduce and survive. And still we're doing amazing things. So maybe we're not so far from each other. To that, Gray Bosch is the inventor of UML, and he is one of the people that dislikes LLMs and thinks they're just garbage. And he said, to compare the simplicity of a large language model with something that is human or an animal, something that is biological, that is just full of nothing, it's laughable. Maybe you agree with Bosch, maybe you agree with Sam Altman. It's something to talk about. But at the same post and Twitter, I like this very much. Chris Densty answered to those people saying, okay, my spouse doing it from the time that we got married. It's the best language model that I can think about. So can it think? Can it innovate? Can it feel? Gray Bosch, of course, thinks not. He thinks that until this model will write a sonata or produce a play or write a book by itself with something that is totally new, until then it's something that is not, it cannot think, it's not human. To that, Eric Niebler, we know him from the C++ union. He says, okay, but maybe our thoughts are the same as you're trying to say that the AI thoughts are. Maybe we're not so different. Maybe we are just trying to see what is the next symbol that will fall there, exactly like AI does. And he is even answering more that he feels like he's an AI robot by himself because he has epilepsy, and he thinks that sometimes he's just using statistics. His brain is doing statistics. And it's a very, very long post in Twitter. You have the link there, so please go read all of it afterwards if you are interested. I think it's an interesting post. So can it innovate? Can we innovate? In the end of the day, we are just like language models, most of us. We're just consuming data, we're getting data in, and we're outputting data out. Most of us don't innovate. Most of us don't create new things. We're just doing something that was already done, but we're doing it a little bit differently. So what do you think? Can we innovate? Are we so far away from those boats? Or is it too much philosophy? Funny thing is, if you will look at a Wikipedia post, and if you will click on the first link on each Wikipedia post, eventually you will get to philosophy. So it always ends in philosophy, 97% of the times. Okay, what are LLMs good for? Right now, they are good for question answering, so you can go to chat with the bot, and you will get usually a good answer about your questions. And it will happen quicker and easier than if you will just go and inquire it in a search engine. It can write essays. It can rephrase things. And it does it quite well. It can summarize text for you. So you can give it large text, and it will write a summary for you. It can translate language. Not that good, but it does it. And it can generate code. We'll talk about it later. LLMs are not new things. They were already around us for a long time, but there's new things on those models. So because the computation power got much larger and better, we can create larger models, and that means those larger models can do better things, amazing things even. New LLM models are designed to be like humans. Who spoke here with ChatGPT or any other bot? Do you, sorry?
I love ChatGPT.
Do you feel when you speak with it, do you feel like it's a human that's talking to you?
I definitely talk to it as if I'm talking to a human, but I think that might be more about my social conditioning than the responses it gives me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
In my opinion, it does. It feels like you're speaking to a real human being. It's like it's saying sorry and thank you, and I will do that, I will try to do this. So it's nice. Yes?
A colleague of mine did a Turing test with it and said that it passed. So he did 20 students, and he had 5 students on one side, a couple of chatbots on the other side. And they passed, he said. And
yeah, GPT 3.5 passed the Turing test. GPT-4 passed it with flying banners. It was easy for him. It has a better understanding of context. So it remembers what you're telling it. If you're starting a prompt and you're starting a conversation with it, it knows what's going on. So if you ask it a question, it gives you an answer, and then you're saying something about his answer, he will answer you according to the context. They know it. Those bots know it. And they have multilingual support, something that was really hard, but now with newer embeddings and newer models, it's starting to be easier. It's not there yet, but it's really, really close. What are the limitations? Well, computing power. It's really hard to create those models. They're huge. They consume a lot of energy, and they consume a lot of computing power. Another problem with it, I heard from someone that inquiring a web search costs around 8 cents. And when you're inquiring ChatGPT, it costs around $8, approximately. So it costs more to get this human-like robot to work. It has high dependency on data quality. So think about it. It learns from the data it receives. If it will receive garbage in, it will output garbage out. So we need always to judge the data that we are feeding to the model.
It costed $8 for every query we run.
Yeah,
So we
approximately.
we feel like they're getting Microsoft bankrupt. That big.
Don't take it literally. I heard it from someone in the business. I cannot say it's the correct number, but it's approximately there. It has limited understanding of causality. It has limited creativity. Again, it's a bot. It learns something, and it can produce only things that it learned. It can produce things that he already seen. It cannot produce something new now. Limited ability to understand emotion. By the way, if you're saying I'm sad or how you're feeling, it's starting with I'm an AI model, I don't feel. So that's fine for now. And this is the worst thing, hallucinations. If you ask the bot something and it doesn't know the answer, sometimes it can answer elaborately about nonsense. Lines and lines of nonsense, and if the person doesn't know what he's asking or doesn't even have a normal clue of what he wants to get, he will just have nonsense and he will not know because it answers in such high confidence that it knows what it's saying. And it may be lured into producing unethical, racist things. Developers are trying to fix those things, but every fix has its own break, so we're software developers, we know that. Now let's ask a philosophical question. Can LLMs replace programmers?
No.
We have different opinions here, of course.
Depends on your definition of programmer.
Depends on which programmers.
Nice. So let's simplify the question. Maybe it will replace programmers 10 years from now, maybe 20 years from now. I don't know. Let's simplify the question and say, can LLM can LLM make programmers more productive?
Yes.
Yes.
Can it make them significantly more productive?
Yes.
I think so as well. But let's look at this nice thing. Before OpenAI, before ChatGPT, developers used to write code for 2 hours, then debug it for 6 hours. After OpenAI, they're just getting the code after 5 minutes and then debug in 24 hours. Is it more productive? I don't know. Maybe it is. So during this conversation, we will talk about, is it a good tool? Can we use this tool? Is it a bad tool? And how it will change our work. Before we will end this conversation about the intro, we need to think about ChatGPT and compare it to a parrot. So it's almost the same. The only difference is it's not a cute little bird. Okay, it's the end of chapter 1. If you have any questions, comments, please ask them now. If not, we will continue. Great.
I'm just thinking we shouldn't be worried about being replaced. Chandler will replace us by the time anyway.
You mean C++ programmers?
In Carbon.
We can argue about that later. It has nothing to do about ChatGPT and AI. Okay, in search of a silver bullet. So, do you know what silver bullet does?
Kills a werewolf.
That's right. And there's a lot of werewolves in our area of expertise in software. So, being a silver bullet is really hard. It's something that takes a lot to learn and understand what it means to be a silver bullet in software development. In 2005, Fred Brooks had a talk at Uppsala about no silver bullet in the near future. And there was even a person there dressed like a werewolf to explain that there will be no silver bullets and they will never kill the werewolf in software development. And the funny thing about that picture, it was taken by Amir Kirsh. Okay, now we have to understand. During that talk, they spoke about the difference between essence an accident in software development. So we need to understand that as well. Essence is basically saying what the system needs to do. What do we need to do as programmers for that program to work correctly? Accident, it means, oh, we need to fix a bug. Oh, we need better tools. Maybe we need better debuggers. Maybe we need something else. But that is just accidental. It doesn't provide a silver bullet. It doesn't change how we do things. So those are the examples I already gave. What can change the essence part? Right now, nothing changed it. But in our opinion, what may change it is if we will have a new technology, an external technology, that will do things for us, and it will do things for us differently. So for example, if this new technology will write requirements for us, for example, if this technology will say, are those requirements complete? If this technology will write tests for us, maybe then we will have a new silver bullet. Now, what didn't become silver bullet in software development when many, many people thought it will be the silver bullet? New paradigms like object-oriented programming. It was not a silver bullet at all. New software languages like Carbon. It's not a silver bullet. IntelliSense, it helped us a lot, but it's not a silver bullet as well. Much better compiler errors, greater static code analysis, the internet. Everything is an accident, but it didn't change the way we write code. Silver bullet, but there were silver bullets in other domains. Question?
I would argue that at least object-oriented changed the way we write code.
It changed the way we think, but it didn't change the way the essence works. We still need to think how we will solve the problem. That didn't help with the essence. It helped with the accident, but not the essence. So it's not a silver bullet. There were other silver bullets in other domains that are not software during those years. For example, gunpowder. That's a silver bullet, literally. The Industrial Revolution, vaccines, the computer, the internet, satellites. Yeah, those are things where silver bullets for other domains. And what's common for all those? Exactly what I said. It's external technology that helps us do things differently. Is this external technology a must? Yes. Most of the times, yes. But why is it a must? Because if you just change the way you think about things, it's not changing the way the essence works. It means if you think about it, maybe someone else already tried it. Because just changing the way we think about things, it's not enough. But yes?
Would you consider development in the hardware, like processors, as an essence or an accident?
Processors? It's external technology. For example, that's a good question. Thank you, by the way. In speed data, we are developing a processor that is entirely different than other processors. So yes, in my opinion, it's going to be a silver bullet for analytics.
Thank you.
Because it's an external technology. But there were some things that didn't have external technology. For example, writing. Cavemen used to write on walls, on their caves. We are doing the same thing, but in a different language. So here we just had some change of mind, and still the development was enormous because we started education. People started to be smarter, more educated, extended memory. You can write a book, and people in thousands of years maybe will read this book. Democracy. It's a silver bullet, but it's just a mind change. Still, it succeeded to be a silver bullet. And Fosbury flop. Think about it. If you jump backwards, you will do it better. Who would have thought? Technology and productivity. So we talked about the silver bullets that might have happened and might not have happened. Now I want to discuss about technology. Is every new external technology a good thing that makes our productivity better? For example, let's look at GPS. Google Maps, Waze, vs Paper Maps. Has our driving time become shorter? No. Is it became easier to drive? Yes. Internet at work. So internet at work help us use Stack Overflow until now and copy-paste our way to the paycheck day. But it always also helped us to be on LinkedIn, Facebook, and do other things. Social networking. If we are using Facebook, are we more social or less social?
Less.
Or a different kind of social.
The worst kind.
Yes. So do we have a silver bullet in software for software development? And here again, I'm asking the question about AI. AI is an external technology that might be a silver bullet for us, for software development. Would it improve our productivity? We already said, most of us said, yes, maybe it will. How will it do it? Everything here is a question. We got to an end of this of the second chapter. If you have remarks or something that you want to discuss, this is the time to do it. Okay. Now, let's start talking about actual things, not philosophy. Until now, we talked about philosophy and how things will work philosophically. And because we are programmers and we're in software development, we want to rush and write code. But here we are saying, no, let's start with requirements because requirements are important. We need to start with requirements and then we will go to code. So can AI models verify requirements? Can they write requirements? Can they verify completeness of requirements? We will see that now. I will now present a conversation that we had with ChatGPT. And by the way, I must say that we started with GPT 3.5, ChatGPT itself. And we know that the GPT-4 is already out. But because we started it with GPT 3.5, we finished all the presentation with GPT 3.5. And that means that things that are not that good and satisfying with GPT 3.5 are much better with 4. So identifying inconsistencies in requirement. We're starting with hello. Are you starting with hello with ChatGPT? Are you talking to it like a human being? Please do, or hello?
You're asking me?
I'm asking everyone. I'm looking in a general direction.
I would say hello.
Okay. We will give you 3 sentences, a couple of sentences, and please tell us if there's some contribution in the sentences. So we're saying C++ now happens once a year. Then we're saying C++ is happening in May. And then we're saying C++ is happening in the summer. ChatGPT tells us, okay, sentence number 1 is fine. Sentence number 2 is fine. But sentence number 3 is something wrong here. Why? Because May is generally considered to be in the spring. And he's right. There is a contribution there. Okay, now we'll try something else. We're saying now CppNow happens twice a year, not once a year. This year CppNow happens in May, and this year CppNow happens in the summer. ChatGPT says that cannot be, because CppNow is an annual event. It cannot happen twice. It has prior knowledge of what CppNow is. I think it's amazing. It's amazing that it knows, it has prior knowledge, and it can check if we are just writing nonsense. Now we will try to do something else, because I do want it to be twice a year, and we are saying, okay, let's assume that CppNow happens twice a year, not once a year. This year it happens in May, and the second event happens in the summer. ChatGPT says, no, it's an annual event. We cannot assume something like that. So we will do something else. We will say, okay, we have another event called foo. Foo event happens twice a year. This year it happens in May and in the summer. And then ChatGPT says, that's fine. If you want a foo event happens twice a year, please go ahead. Come to Aspen twice, everything is fine. And it works. But we can do something even better. We can say, forget all that you know about C++ now. After we are saying, forget all you know about C++ now, and we are giving it the same inquiry, It says, okay, you asked me to forget all I know about C++ now. And only because you asked me to do something like that, what you're asking me now, it's fine. So basically, it has knowledge, and you can talk to it like a human, and you can actually inquire things like you wanted to use them. You can tell him, forget things. You can tell him, please change something, assume something, and it will do it. And then if you will go back to the same and say, let's assume that CppNow happens twice a year, it will give you the same answer. I know about CppNow, and it cannot happen twice a year. Okay, that was looking at requirements. Verifying completeness of requirements is something different. So we will inquire him something else. We will say, we will give you 2 sentences. Please say if those requirements are complete. We want to have a service that shall get a city symbol. The service shall return the weather of this city. Are those requirements clear to anyone? They're not clear to ChatGPT as well. He is saying, okay, those things are not clear to me. Please explain. What do you mean city symbol? Is it the logo of the city, or is it something else? What is the format of the input that we will receive in this service? Will it be a data type or something else? Then it says, okay, what will be the output? Will it be a JSON? Will it be an XML? What format do you want me to do here? Please tell me specific data that you want me to look at. What do you want to see? Do you want to see temperature? Do you want to see humidity? Do you want to see weather, wind speed, or anything else? You need to be more specific. And what is the frequency of the updates that you want to get from this service? So, in my opinion, if I had something like this, like a buffer from me to the PM, it would be great. It would send me an email with the requirement. He will send me an email with the requirements. And ChatGPT or any GPT engine will just say, hey, your requirements are incorrect or incomplete. Now we will try another completeness. So we are saying here, the service shall get 2 numbers, indicating speed and time. The service shall return distance passed for the given speed and time. Is this complete? Here he's trying to be polite with me. He's saying, well, your requirement seems to be fine. We know they are not fine. We didn't say what is speed, what is distance, how do we measure those things. But then he's saying the requirements do specify any additional constraints on assumptions, such as units of measurements for speed and time, but I can assume it for you. Do we want to be assumed by someone? So because someone in Europe can assume it in kilometers per hour, and someone from the United States can assume it in miles per hour. We need to be specific about those things. Okay, so after he said, it's fine, but you have some problems here, we can ask him in the same prompt to do the next thing. Suppose that I want the requirements to be very strict. What would you suggest to amend them, and how? And he is answering, okay, if you need those things, please specify the units of measurement. That's good. Specify any limitations that you want. Maybe you want the hours to be from 1 to 24. Maybe you can give 25 hours. Maybe the speed can be only up to 100 miles per hour or kilometers per hour. Please be specific here. Specify data types that you want to use. We need data types for speed and distance. Will there be integers? Will there be doubles? Those things need to be specified. And please specify the error condition that the service needs to meet. Arithmetic errors, network, system failures, all those things. Yes, that's great suggestions for people. And it's readable. It's like, for me, it's kind of amazing. So we saw that AI may verify requirements. It can identify inconsistencies. It can verify requirements completeness. It can see things, and it can help us with requirements. What do you think? Can it do those things after you saw? Maybe you will think it's just small snippets, and maybe because of that it knows the answers. I think even with larger requirement set, because it's a larger language model, it should succeed doing everything. Yes?
On the one hand, this thing is very, very smart. On the other hand, a few months back, when everyone was getting excited about it, it gave me a wrong answer on a very basic arithmetic question. And then it tried to convince me that a positive number can have two positive
Square root.
Square root.
Okay. As I said, it may hallucinate. It has problems. And if you're not certain of what you're asking it, it may hallucinate, and it will be problematic for people that are asking it things that are not sure about.
It basically dug itself into a hole.
It happens, yes. But a very secure hole. Like he was sure that he's saying the correct thing. That's hallucinations. Yes?
Do you think that it's likely to depend on the domain that you're asking it about? Like you were asking it about things like calculating speed and things like that are very readily available on the internet. What if you're working in a domain that's more obscure that it might not have as much data on?
So it's going to be problematic, of course. We have to understand that large language models are just robots that read a lot of things over the internet, and they're using mathematical equation to say what the next word will be. It's pretty smart. It has lots of neurons, but still, if it hasn't read anything, it will not invent it for you. It will try. Sometimes, like Andre was saying, it invented something for positive numbers, but it will not be correct. So, can AI models write requirements? Kind of. Can it design documents? And we have an interesting thing here. So, Jonathan Mueller asked it to write a proposition for the CPP standard for enums. Reflections for enums. And the document that he produced was pretty good. It was almost something that you can send to the committee. Still, you had to sit around it a little bit, read it, and fix some things. But it gave a great skeleton. At the same time, Vittorio asked it to do the same thing and got even better document because he asked him better things. So, in the end of the day, it's a starter, in my opinion. It's like when you're starting your car, and we need to start doing things, and it's the hardest thing to do, to start to do something. So it can provide us with a skeleton for the documentation, and then we just need to verify it and say if we can use it and fix the things that are incorrect or hallucinated, and then we can even use ChatGPT itself to correct the document for us. Okay. So this is the end of the chapter about requirements. Any other comments or questions that you would like to ask? Yes.
I guess I'm curious if you fed it or asked it to build any documents that are fairly large, such that one that might take you a day or two to review and kind of go through. My experience of, let's say I'm reviewing a big PR of code from somebody and I didn't write that PR.
Yeah.
It's often very difficult for me to see the subtle places where that PR is incorrect because I didn't really go through the process of building it. What do you think? Were you using ChatGPT to start us? But it's kind of hard when you have a big scaffolding to start, just kind of see like, oh, well, this is actually kind of a flawed thing here, but I didn't really it kind of like takes away the process going through it.
That's a really good question. We will get to there. But you have to always keep in mind that those robots, they're really good at reading text. They're much better than us in doing that. So for you or for me, it's a large PR. It's going to be really hard to work on. For this thing, okay, I read it, I understand it. Now let's see what I can do for you. And we will get to something similar pretty soon in the next chapter. Anyone else? Yes, Peter.
I mean, I know on some, by the way, I've never used ChatGPT, so I'm one of the Luddites in the room. But I've heard everybody else is using it, right?
Yeah.
So for some kind of toy examples, or asking, I guess, common knowledge. But if you need to feed in requirements for a system, right? But we have these problems getting requirement specifications for writing pieces of code and stuff right now. And how would you feed in, like, I don't know, a couple of thousand pages of requirements into ChatGPT? Because I don't know.
Well, you have programs that can scan things and just feed it there, or you can write your requirements directly into ChatGPT.
You just give it a PDF?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
You can scan PDF and just give it to it. It can read it. If you have access to GPT on your servers, you can basically do whatever you want with it. So you can program it to receive PDFs. ChatGPT itself on the web, it cannot do that.
Actually, I tried to feed it there. I think when I was preparing my presentation here, I wanted to see what happens if it can do corrections.
Okay.
So it wouldn't accept attachments, but it actually suggested I give it a URL.
So it reads URLs now. Okay.
And then it did nothing useful with it. It gave some general advice, but refused to do the changes itself.
And that's why I'm saying it's ChatGPT. It just chat for prompt and chatting with you. But if you want actual applications, actual good applications that will be useful for you, you need it on site. You cannot use ChatGPT for your work, daily work, because I'm not sure what it's doing with it. They're saying they are not learning from you, but I'm not sure. Anyone else? Okay, let's continue. So we finally got to coding and testing, the things that we as software engineers, we really like. And I have to say the idea of giving requirements and receiving code from those requirements, it's not a new idea. It's been with us from the 80s, since the 80s. Here I'm talking about more recent things about David Harel that he's invented. He invented requirements language. The problem with those things is it was so strict that basically it was a programming language. So we did nothing with it. And I think that the GPT and AI bots will help with that as well. It's going to be easier. Okay, so we will now start generating system requirements with AI and generating code from it. Here is just an example of Dan Shapir that he's writing a lot about GPT and AI models. And he's saying, okay, let's try to use GPT-4 to build ChatGPT in 10 prompts or less. And he did it. It actually worked. He used GPT to create ChatGPT in 5 prompts. He cheated because in the same prompt, if the answer wasn't entirely correct, he would fix it by asking the GPT to do it a little bit different. But again, prompts are cheap and quick. And he actually did it. And this is his ChatGPT. Okay, now let's play with it and see how good is it in C++. Let's calculate distance. So we're asking him, could you please implement a function in C++ that gets time and speed and returns a distance? No main function is needed. And it gets us this thing. Very naive, very simple, but it will work. Then we're saying in the same prompt, okay, can you please add type safety here because double is not enough for us? And we say, certainly, I will do that. And he is creating a struct called distance, putting everything inside the struct. It's not type safety. So we're saying, no, that's not type safety. Please do something like chrono library. Or we're saying, oh, sorry for doing that incorrectly. Let's use chrono library. So here it does some things that I don't like personally, like using namespace chrono, or doing this thing, typedef double kilometers per hour. That's not strong typing. Typedef is just an alias, so it's going to be a double. So it's incorrect again. But now we're asking him, okay, I was advised against using namespace, and also I was told typedef is not strong enough for type safety. Please note that we are never telling it what to do. We are just suggesting things and asking him to do things. Ask him, like, in a general direction of what we wanted to do. So he's saying, oh, okay, you are correct. I am sorry. With that in mind, he created something that is actually strong typing. So he created class kilometers per hour with explicit constructor that receives double, and he created distance without explicit constructor, but kilometers per hour. That's pretty nice. Another thing that we didn't like here is he created a class with a function that uses only chrono and kilometers per hour. We want something to be more generic. So we asked him, we want to calculate distance based on some global function, and then we want to use templates for that, because we want to use different units, just like in chrono. So he said, okay, sure, let's do it. And he created pretty good functionality for it. So here we have distance, which is a strong type. We have speed, which is strong type. And we have a distant function that calculates the distance. That's pretty nice, but with one problem, still a problem. It used decal type of T1 and multiplied by T2. And he used default constructor for it. Who said those types that we will use have default constructors? So this will fail in some cases. In some cases it will work, in some cases it will fail. To fix it, you need to use decal val on both T1 and T2, but it's close enough. From this moment, a live person, can take this code, fix whatever he needs or she needs, and that's it. Pretty nice. It took us 5 prompts to do it. 5 prompts to get where we want to be. It's not bad. Comparing something to 0. So we asked, this is actually something that someone in our WhatsApp group asked help with, to compare something, if something very large equals to 0 inside a vector or elements. And we asked ChatGPT to do that. And it brought a pretty good function with a hallucination. Stud is trivial comparable V does not exist. It's not in the standard, but it thought it is. But it's nice. I wish it was, but it's not.
Next thing, it's gonna write a paper.
We can ask it.
I know.
There is actually a paper about it that didn't get inside the C++23, but it thought it got inside. So we are telling it, listen, I think using bigger chunks is better for us. So let's use some 64-bit memory chunks using memcopy. It might be more efficient to do it like this. And we said, certainly, let's do it. And he's still using is trivially comparable because he's certain it's in the standard. But he creates good code here. Basically, you can take this code, change the is trivial comparable, and it will work. Now we are telling it, okay, let's stop with this. Is trivial comparable is not in the standard. And please create it with something else that is actually in the standard. So it's saying, oh, yeah, you're right. Is trivially comparable V is in C++20. A lie. And then it's saying, okay, because you have only C++17, we will use is trivially copyable instead. That's good, but that's not good enough because trivially copyable is not exactly what we need, because if we have padded types, they can be trivially copyable, but not certainly trivially comparable. So it's not good enough here, but it's almost there. We, as human programmers, can take the code and we can actually take it and take the skeleton that it prepared for us and create better, faster things with it. And as I said, is trivially comparable V is something that was actually proposed by Inbal Levy. Sorry, it's related to your proposal. No. Related. Sorry.
I think that was a hallucination.
That was a hallucination by me. Okay, and also there's a functionality to check if types are aligned because it's not something in the standard and it's hard to do. So you can follow the links here and see if it's possible or not.
Or you can ask ChatGPT to implement distributed concurrent.
Try and report.
I can report the previous image.
Okay.
I found it.
Okay, so let's go to another example of generating code. So here is something that Amir actually told me that he tried to search for in Google, and he didn't find something that actually worked, but he found things that are similar but not good enough. So he decided to ask ChatGPT, and he is saying all we want here is like we have a variadic pack of template variadic pack, and we want to stop the expansion if some condition is met. And ChatGPT creates this code. Well, if you would look at it, for me it's like legacy code already because it's using C++14 with the comma thing, and it's horrible, not readable. And the worst thing is, it won't even work. Can you see why it won't work? Stop condition met is never used. It's false all the time. He created a function for print until 0, but he never used it. So it will not work. So we're telling it, okay, it seems that the stop condition met flag is not used. Can you please fix it? And he's saying, certainly, let's do it. And he's using it a bit differently. And then he's creating a function, the same function, and he's using stop condition met without providing it into a function. Hallucination. Now we're telling it, okay, but the function does not have access to stop conditional met. Please use it correctly. And he's telling us, oh, yeah, sorry, I used the global variable. He didn't use a global variable. And let's do it differently, and we will pass it into a function itself. So here it's writing its code, and it's more likely, and it uses stop condition. A little bit weird that stop condition met equals stop condition met, and then the function itself, and it providing the arguments, and then returns stop condition met. But it's not bad. It's already something that we can work with. Afterwards, we asked him, okay, this is legacy code, as I said. Can you do it better with fold expressions? And he's saying, yeah, sure, I can do it with fold expression. So here we get a good functionality. We can see that we're providing it whatever it needs. We're using fold expression with or. The only thing that I don't like is it creates the conditional met and then returns it instead of just using the fold expression. But it's not bad overall. This is the actual code that Amir used in the end at his lessons that he teaches his students. So it was one of the examples there. Okay, so we saw that it kind of can generate C++ code. Kind of, sort of. You just need to tell it what to do. But can it explain code? Here we have an example of something that, again, Amir is teaching to his courses. And this is short snippet of code, but it's not an easy snippet of code to understand. And ChatGPT takes this code, and it has a great explanation. He actually explains in very good details, what this thing does. And it's pretty amazing. It only had two problems. He's saying that we are using function pointers, we are using lambdas, it thinks it's function pointers, and it said that we're using something that is public when it was private. So those are the only two problems with its explanation. Otherwise, amazing explanation of the code. And that's kind of the answer for you. It wasn't a huge example, but it understands it completely. And if you give it more code, I hope it will explain it as good as well. So afterwards, we're saying in the same prompt, we're telling it, okay, after you explain that code, we're giving you a new snippet of code. Can you please explain what this snippet of code does when it uses the previous one? and it explains it perfectly. Perfectly, even without problems here. It explains it better than a human. Because the code is not that simple, the explanation is really long, but if you think about it for students or for juniors, it's really good because it's in details and it's in human language, and it's pretty amazing that it can understand things from things it learned and to explain what the macro does, what the algorithm does, what each one of those things is important for. Pretty amazing. So what we saw here, that the explanation is pretty good. It might have some problems, but still, pretty amazing. Okay, so we saw that it can explain code. Can it fix code for us? Here we are giving it another code snippet, and we're intentionally putting an error in this code. Can you find the error in this code?
There's a big square. I can't see your code because of the lights.
Oh, sorry.
Stop looking at me, Alex.
I'm not looking at you, guys. So I will help you. The problem is here. We're using a type that's called std common reference with TS ellipsis. That's a type, but that's not what we want. We want the nested type inside it. So to fix this thing, all we need to do is to say underline T, and it will work. And ChatGPT says, I know what the problem is. Nonsense. Nonsense. But the solution is correct. The explanation about what the problem is, pure bogus explanation about nothing that the problem actually is. But the fix for the problem is perfect. Here we have another example of problems in the code, problems that usually will not be found by IDEs or ASNs, because we're actually one out of bound. We're using one out of bound, and why it's going to be harder for ASN to find it, because the memory is actually there, but we are accessing it with a vector, and it's incorrect. For this, ChatGPT explains perfectly what the problem is, and it knows how to fix it as well. So it produced valid code, it explained it perfectly, and those small things are things that juniors are actually failing at. So if we'll start using ChatGPT, maybe we will be more productive. Maybe if we will have static analysis with ChatGPT, it's going to be better. Who's to say? Okay, let's think about it. If it can fix code, if it can understand code, maybe it can self-heal our code. So think about it. You're left work for night, and your CI started running. Your CI takes a long time to finish. And during the night, something bad happens and your CI fails. Maybe GPT or any other bot can fix your problem. Maybe it can put number of suggestions, and then someone, after CI already passed, you can come in the morning as the developer and say, I have a couple of suggestions what I can do. I will pick the correct suggestions, but I know that it's already passed, so I can use it to our advantage. Think about it. So iteration must be fast. And I think AI can help us with these iterations. And Amir asked me to say that Incredible can help you with building your things much, much faster because they are using distributed. And I will say from my perspective, if you have analytics in your CI, we will do it better. Okay, so there's actually a project for Python that's called Wolverine that is self-healing code. You can go to the GitHub for this thing. It works pretty well, not perfect, but it's getting there. So it's pretty amazing in my opinion. Now, testing. So we saw that it can create code, it can look at code, it can explain code, it can fix code. Can it create testing? That's a good question. And actually, it's really good with testing. It's better than anything with testing right now. So there is a way of doing tests in Java that's called BDD, behavioral design. And it's basically pretty nice. It's writing your test by writing user stories. When you're writing the user story, it will produce the unit test for you. And the tool that produces the unit test for you from the behavioral story, from the user story, called Cucumber. And basically, that's how Cucumber looks. And if we gave it the user story, it was able to produce very good Cucumber code. Unlike if you would use something inside your IDE that will just produce functions without any information, without any code inside them, and you will have to fill them up by yourself, it's doing the skeleton for you. It does the job, and it does it well. And even, we noticed one thing, that it used hard-coded instead of using parameters. So after telling it, hey, we know that we can do it with parameters, it says, you're right, let's use a parameter. And it fixes its own code, and now it's much better. So it's really good at testing. It will really help us with testing, with writing unit tests, with using unit tests. Well, as developers, do you like writing unit tests?
Sure.
You're laughing, that means no. Anyone else? Who likes? You like it?
Of course.
Oh, you're like one of a million. Because usually people don't like writing unit tests. And if the bot can do it for you, it's gonna help.
Sometimes I don't even have a very clear understanding of how to implement a feature, and I begin to write a unit test, and by the time that I implement the feature, then it is flowing really quickly, and I already have the test.
So it's a test design.
It's test-driven design.
Yeah.
Behavior.
Yeah. It's a way to do things, but most people do not use it like that. So most people hate writing unit tests. And this can actually help because it can write pretty good unit tests for you. I haven't tried it with C++ unit testing, like gtest or catch, but for Java, it does a great job. Okay. Generally, it does a great job, but it can write bugs. And Vittorio again says, okay, humans write bugs as well. So what's the difference? Because it's a bot, it cannot write bugs? It can. Okay. And as you all said, there is a bigger code challenge. Everything here was something small, a small snippet of code, a small test that we had to do. But I think that the newer models will do better and they will know how to read larger code bases, again, because it's easier for those things to read those code bases, to understand them. And as you saw, it's easier for you to understand what the code does than to write the exact code that you want. Those are testimonies from the same C++ user group that we said that I already mentioned. So one person is saying, hey, I don't use templates so much, and I needed to do something with variadic template, so I couldn't find something on Google, and I asked ChatGPT to do something, and it gave me a great example that I had to change a little bit, and then it worked. Another person saying, okay, I asked ChatGPT about multi-threading, concurrency, and it actually responded good things, and it told me that I need to use atomic variable in some place because I have a race condition there. And it told me I'm actually dividing by 0 by chance. So it found problems in his code, and it actually helped him. This is the end of chapter 4. If you have anything to add, anything to ask, please. Yes, Christine.
How do you think ChatGPT is going to affect the way we conduct technical interviews? Quote unquote technical interviews.
Wait, just wait. We're getting there.
I think it's good for training. You saw that session with what seemed like a bad candidate, which kept convoluting around its own wrong answers.
Yeah, but I mean, I still think that like you went from having no answer to having a semi-coherent answer in 5 seconds, right? I mean, that's a lot of what a technical interview is based on. Like, can you produce code that answers this question? And if you have somewhat of a background in C++, you can kind of parse out the things that are wrong and then just be like, okay, solution to this problem.
And I think, yes. So again, we will get there in a second because it's in the next chapter. We were going to talk about those things. But if you're asking me, we will have to change the way we're thinking about junior developers. Anyone else? Okay, so let's continue.
I just want to comment that, like, I also think that the general caliber of somebody doing an interview is also, like, they might not notice that, like, stood trivial, is trivial, constructible is, or comparable is not in the standard, right?
Yeah, sure. It depends on the person.
No, I'm just saying it's not going to be an obvious, like, this is a bad candidate response.
You need someone with a compiler in his head to know everything. So people hate when I do interviews in my company because my interviews are really hard. I can see every little detail that the people are writing wrong on the blackboard. Oh, well.
The one with the hallucination, that was not the question I was referring to earlier. Remember that one that it passed a flag and they didn't use it and said it was a global and kept going.
Oh, yeah. But you need only 5 prompts and it fixed everything. And it actually produced good code. 5 prompts, that's it.
I'm not sure Google can get 5
No, I don't think so.
But a lot of the times, like, in an interview, the hard part is, like, coming up with a response to the question. Like, a relatively competent programmer can figure out that, like, this variable is not actively used. Like, I need to instantiate it or to declare it somewhere. Like, I just think that you can get 95% of the way to a quality, what would be perceived to be like quality response in a technical interview with ChatGPT, and so it's going to change. I'm wondering if Alex thinks it's going to change the way we conduct these interviews.
Yeah, but what if you get a program that
Guys,
actually wrote that code and then keeps writing that code in response to your challenges? That's what happened by that.
It did, because it wanted to do something and it did it incorrectly, but with directing it. And again, I don't think that we gave him such specific direction of what we want. We gave him general direction.
You gave enough direction that someone who didn't already know what they wanted the code to look like wouldn't have been able to give that direction.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we gave him just general direction that says, okay, we need to change something here, or we need to do it in a different way, or we want to use it with C++17. So in general, because if he wouldn't know how to do it, it was going to be a problem. Of course, it could hallucinate something, and if you don't understand what fold expression in C++17 is, then you're in a huge problem. That's true.
I would just say I thought the prompts were very specific as well. I mean,
okay.
The prompts you might give in an interview to help someone just to see if they can problem solve. But I would like just to see a show of hands who thought those prompts were directing versus just a general, as you were saying, right? Was it just a general, like, hey, right? Because I thought the prompts were very directed. So who's got a show of hands? Just a show of hands. Who thought that?
This is Peter's talk now.
Hijacking my talk? Okay.
Take it away.
Well, thank you, Peter. Okay, so now let's talk about, is C++ special? Do you think it will happen soon? Hey, we know C++, who cares? I think it's complicated. So think about it. If C++ is too complicated for your eye to master, and we saw it already, C++ is hard. So maybe C++ programmers are necessary, and our job is secure forever, or maybe not. Maybe because C++ is so complicated, AI or companies will stop using C++ because they will be able to generate code for AI with AI models that is better and easier for programmers to work with. Maybe our jobs are in jeopardy. That's the challenge of the model. So think about it. Our essence in C++ domain is really hard. The language does a lot of things, but each complicated domain has parts that are not that complicated, that are simpler, that can be simplified. So maybe we can actually use AI for those simplified parts and leave the harder parts for humans. Maybe that's the way to go. And yes, let's admit it, C++, it's a bloated language. It has a lot of rules. With each iteration, we have more rules, and the standard is written in a very, very hard way for people to understand, and maybe even for AI to understand. So in the end of the day, that's a problem for AI. It's harder language to understand, so it's harder for it to generate correct code, but it's harder for a human to generate correct code with C++ as well, don't you think? And here we have someone from OpenAI that's saying, okay, OpenAI apologized for ChatGPT not being that good with C++, but as you know, we trained it on Twitter, and C++ in Twitter is not regular C++. So what can we do? What is the alternative? Can we use assembly? Well, no, there's not enough assembly, but that's a very weak argument. The stronger argument is we want something to be maintainable by humans as well. And most people, it's harder for them to maintain assembly. So that's not the answer. Maybe we can go to Python. Python, the generation of Python code with ChatGPT is amazing. It's almost right all the time. But we have a problem there. Python is an interpreter language. So we don't have the compiler there. If we don't have the compiler, we don't have another layer of security that's saying it didn't write something wrong. Because in Python, it has to go to the line of code and only then it will fail. So that's problematic. So maybe we should generate Rust. Rust is practically safer than C++, that's what people are saying. It's easier than C++ to master. Maybe we can go to CPP2 that Herb is developing. Maybe this is the solution here as well. So what do you think, guys? What is the future for C++? Yes?
Well, I believe that there are a lot of things that you can only do in C++ in practical terms, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially in technical challenges regarding latency or object code size. So I think that we are safe with regard to the future of C++ when it continues to be the only tool that allows you to get to some degree of technical challenge.
Yes, but that's not the exact question. I'm asking, will AI bots be better at C++? Will AI bots take over? Or maybe, again, companies, they want quicker development. And you have other languages that work well in the same domain, or will work in the same domain. There are so many successor languages right now, and everyone is speaking about those successor languages, even here in C++ now. We're talking about Carbon, we're talking about Rust, we're talking about how those things will be better. The funny thing is no one talking about Zig, but it's a great language as well. So in my opinion again, the language will survive. AI will get better with C++, and we will need to understand how we will work together. Yes?
I don't think that bringing AI into the conversation necessarily changes the answer. Because when you're talking about, for example, Python versus C++, and you're making the argument Python's easier for AI to write, Python's also easier for humans to learn and write. And
that's
C++
true.
is still here. So I don't think that AI is necessarily changing that narrative. It's just another facet of it.
That's a good argument. Yes, Peter.
I would say, the AI has, I don't know, from what I hear around me, has proven out to be a helper. So, you don't have, if you can't find it on, Stack Overflow, you can't Google it, you might say, I'll back it off to ChatGPT, or give yourself some framework like you were showing, right? But you still need to have that expertise, and for really thorny, difficult problems, giving it the requirements to run on, I think would still be difficult, but it would be, and it probably has been, a good helper. I mean, you can talk to that, right? I'm assuming you've used it a bit for this discussion in real code problems.
Yeah, not just for actual code snippets that you saw here. Sometimes I ask question about, for example, I wanted to integrate Conan into our code base. And I wanted to understand how to configure it in the best way. So it actually helped a lot with that, with creating Conan configurations and those things. I do use it. I don't use it for C++ because it is harder for it to create the C++ that I need. But simpler C++, it generates it well.
I think unit tests are a perfect way you could say,
Unit
hey,
tests are, yeah.
throw me out a whole bunch of unit tests, and we can look at it. But I don't think it will, sort of, to your other point, I don't think it's going to say, well, C++ will get deprecated because ChatGPT can do.
I'm not talking about C++ getting deprecated, I'm talking about us getting deprecated.
No, it's still
Exactly.
right?
Yeah. I didn't say C. Yes and no. Like C++ might again.
To suck down, right?
Peter is right. It's us getting deprecated and C++ getting deprecated because it's harder for AI to generate C++.
Okay.
Right, and to Herb's talk, there's a huge amount of shift that needs to go, right, to get there. Rust has been around, I don't know what he said, 10 years?
Something like that.
10% of that space. So I don't think anything's going to happen overnight, but it will sort of have fingers in, I think, all the lower level stuff.
I agree. Okay, Christine, you wanted to say something,
Well,
but because we need to continue.
I'm
So.
gonna keep going.
No, please.
We'll talk after.
Okay. Okay, so how can we get prepared to the age of AI? Let's assume we're not software engineers. Let's assume that we are journalists. Would you put your hand in the sand and say, hey, nothing happens. There is no AI here. Because AI generates great articles, and it generates great documents, and you cannot ignore it. So should we ignore it as software developers? I don't think so.
I think the interesting question is, can AI get sued for such articles?
That's a different question, and it's not part of the talk here. So yeah, as we started, I said that the AI can generate things, it cannot create things. So it's not going to be something that it never saw. Same thing with the different kinds of AI that generate pictures. Can someone sue it because it used something from another picture? Probably not, because it changed it. Okay, so what are the implications? As we already discussed on recruiting, how it will affect us on teaching software programming, on our daily work. Would we invite an AI model to talk in CppNow? Maybe next year.
I can tell you, Alex, CPP&C has a ChatGPT talk being given. As a
Oh.
keynote.
Alex, do you feel you need a recharge?
Recharge?
You might be an AI. You need to-
Oh, maybe I'm an AI, okay. Okay. Do we need junior developers now? What are junior developers? Basically, we can use ChatGPT to do everything. So maybe we need to change our mindset and say, junior developers need to use ChatGPT good. That's it. They need to use it well. I'm sorry. They need to use it well. Maybe that's it. Maybe we need to change that. But if we will not train junior developers, where will senior developers come from? So we need to do that. Should we allow students to use AI models for homework? Probably yes. How will you tell them not to do it? How will you see if someone actually used AI for writing the code or using the essay or doing anything else? Can we be more strict with the homework? Probably that's what we need to do. Can we toughen what we are doing? Can we change the curriculum goals? Probably that's what we need to do. How would you change the work habits? So for me, it's easier to go to ChatGPT and ask it a question. But again, right now I'm asking it questions that I'm sure that I know the answer or know something around the answer because I'm afraid of hallucinations. But yeah, it's easier to go to ChatGPT and ask it a question than go to Google and try to find it. And can we count on AI model to perform code review on another AI model? That's a good question as well, because it might work. Implication on other domains. So we have to understand that because AI becomes more and more consumption of power, we need better processors. So we need, right now we have those three that are candidates. We have analog processor, quantum computing, biological computing. Quantum computing, biological computing is really far away in the future, but analog processors are here. All those processors have a problem with a lot of noise. So even analog processors are harder to use for AI, but we need something new. We need to change it. Technical support. You all love customer support when you're getting a bot that says, what do you need from me, right? So prepare to get more bots. It's gonna get better, but we're gonna get more of those. How can we know that AI didn't plant a bug in our code intentionally? Well, humans can plant bugs as well intentionally, backdoors. But usually humans are afraid of the complication, of the outcome. Will AI be afraid of the outcome? Schools, academics, and work. Should we start teaching something differently? Should we change the assignment? Do we need to generally think about the work that students do differently? Do we need to avoid and telling them not to use ChatGPT? And how we can avoid it at all? That's a hard question. Here's a great example of how ChatGPT helps people that don't write code at all. So Izar Ashdod is a musician from Israel, and apparently is tech savvy. And he likes using technology to do things with music, to do lights, lightning, and other things. And if you will go to this thread on Twitter, he's showing how he's connecting Arduino to his piano, synthesizer, sorry. And he's using ChatGPT to write code for it to work in BPM. So it's pretty amazing. And it worked pretty well. What do you think? Is there too much fuss about AI? Will it be something more significant in 5 years? I see people nodding. Do you think that it will have other effects except what I mentioned here? Probably yes. Probably on other industries. Any other thoughts? Anyone wants to say something? Yes.
We've kind of been talking a little bit about how ChatGPT might at least replace or assist junior developers with, writing their code. And as a junior developer myself, I think my understanding of C++ and any other language I'd be writing would be hampered if I used ChatGPT regularly, just because you learn a lot through trial and error. You do something wrong and it breaks, and you have to figure out why it broke and then fix it. Whereas if you have ChatGPT, you give it the code and it tells you what's wrong, and you get your code out faster, but you don't learn it as well. So what I'm worried about is, maybe we'll get a lot more good code, but I think in the long run, if we rely too heavily on this, we won't have nearly as many people who are really good at writing code.
I tend to agree. So as a junior developer, it's okay to go and ask ChatGPT to do things. And as you've seen in C++ and in other languages as well, it has errors. So you need to take those errors and you need to fix them by yourself. The thing is, even with ChatGPT, it's trial and error, and you must understand what you're doing, because it can hallucinate, as I said a couple of times. So still, you will do it, you will learn from it, but it's going to take more time if you're someone that don't want to learn how the language actually works.
So his conclusion will actually hold when ChatGPT actually gets good at this.
Yeah. Yes.
I have kind of a response to that, and also a response to talking about homework assignments. I think that the point of homework assignments isn't to write correct code. The point of homework assignments is to learn concepts, right? And if you're using ChatGPT in a way that you're not actually absorbing those concepts and learning, then ultimately you're not going to do well when you have tests or other things where you aren't able to use that. If you were using ChatGPT in a way that you are still learning and absorbing those concepts, then I don't see the problem with that from a homework perspective, because the point is to learn the concepts.
And they're already copying from each other anyway.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, right? Is it's not that people already cheat on homework assignments, right? And,
That's true. But
and I think the same holds true to some extent for junior developers, because part of your job as a junior developer is to learn and grow and ultimately become a senior developer. Aside from, getting your work done and stuff, that's also part of what you're doing as a junior developer.
But that's part of our job as senior developers and as managers to help junior developers to become better. So
right.
I wouldn't ask junior developers that working with me and I'm their manager to tell them, no, don't use ChatGPT. I will not say that. But as someone that will do the code reviews afterwards, I will see the errors, I will see the problems, and I will speak with them and tell them, okay, that's the incorrect way to do those things. You need to do it in another way. And that's the learning curve. So it's not a bad thing to use ChatGPT or GPT or any other LLM.
It's more just an over-reliance on it.
Yeah, over-reliance is something different. But again, it depends on the person. You need to be a person that wants to learn. That's the important thing. I'm sorry, we need to continue. So conclusions and recommendation. After all this discussion, after all we saw about ChatGPT and other LLMs, don't ignore it. It will change things in the world. It's already changing things. Think how this will affect your environment and adjust. Don't ignore it. Again, find ways to utilize LLMs in your business. That's very important to do right now. Very important thing that I can suggest to everyone, speak with it. Like I told it, forget everything you know about CppNow. Tell it what you want it to do, and it will be more accurate. Tell it, I don't want you to be polite. If something is not possible, tell me it's not possible. Use those things. Think of it as someone that understands what you're saying. Because if you will give it those directions, you will get less hallucinations. Even though these results that we are seeing from 3.5 are not perfect right now, they might be perfect in the future. But never rely on anything you're just copy-pasting. You need to understand what you're doing. You need to understand what you're seeing, and you need to use it correctly. The skills of reading code will become more important than writing code itself, because ChatGPT or other LLM will generate the code for you. You will need to understand if it does it correctly or not. Some suggestion of how LLM can be better. So let's think about it. If the language model right now, if it would take the code that it generated and will try to compile it, it will see it has an error, and then maybe it will generate the correct code. Right now, they are not doing it. It's just a statistical model that says, what is the next word that we will output? But if they will compile the code, things might be better. If we will teach or train those models on a higher quality data, for example, in lead code, if we will train it on higher rated solutions, maybe it will get better. If it will output the confidence level out, right now we don't know what's the confidence level for the answer, but if we will know that, we will know, okay, he's hallucinating right now because his confidence on his answer is 10%, but if you will read the answer, it's like amazing, he knows what he's saying. And we need to train the model on bad answers as well, so we would avoid those. Okay, we finished the conversation. If you have any other comments, questions before we conclude, this is the time. If not, I want to say the credit, one credit for Gerald Monroe. He helped us with a couple of things that have to do with ML and AI. We have additional sources. After I will publish the presentation, you will have all the sources from where we got our information. Most of the things, I think, were written by OpenAI. And final thing before we depart, as I mentioned, Core C++ is an event in Israel that's going to be from the 5th to the 2nd of June. If you still haven't bought a ticket, think about it. It's a great event. Bjarne is going to be here this year. And if you're thinking about it and you want to get more answers, please don't hesitate, approach me, and I will help you to decide. Thank you, everyone.